Good evening. Welcome to this Cultivating Effortless Mindfulness series. So for the past few weeks, I have been going through the different aspects of mindfulness. So we have looked at the definition of mindfulness, how we define mindfulness. We have looked at how we apply mindfulness to different areas or different domains, so to speak. Mindfulness of body, mindfulness of feelings, mindfulness of the mind itself, as well as mindfulness of phenomena or Dharma. So, and I have sort of shared a few ideas I have towards how we can be mindful in an effortless way, as opposed to practicing mindfulness in such a way that seems to be full of struggles and frustrations, and find ourselves tensing up and really pushing or really struggling in that practice. So today I thought let's revisit and look at this whole idea of effortless mindfulness. So as we have covered, mindfulness is a particular way of paying attention for us to attend or to be attentive to our own experiences, be it outside of ourselves or inside. And there's a few characteristics that is good to repeat and to remind ourselves. Quite often mindfulness has to do with what is happening here and now in the present moment. To be aware of what is happening in the present moment, and to be aware in such a way that we bring a non-judgmental attitude towards that awareness. So non-judgmental attitude simply means that we do not prejudge. We try not to be too loaded with preconceived ideas or our prejudice or bias, that we leave things a bit open, so that we can see things newly, freshly, and not be so influenced by our preformed or fixated ideas, so to speak. And also mindfulness is often defined as to pay attention purposefully or intentionally. So there's a certain intentionality involved in this way of paying attention. So these are some of the characteristics that quite often find in the definition of mindfulness. Another way of defining mindfulness is really to do with be able to be attentive of familiar things, bringing familiar things to the foreground of our awareness, so that we really notice it, really can see clearly. We are aware of not just whatever it is, but also maybe the details of it. So based on such definition, hopefully by now we get an idea that mindfulness is just a way of describing how we pay attention. And we all can pay attention. We all are attentive of different things at different times. So the quality of mindfulness is a natural quality that we all possess. It's not something that we need to newly create, or we need to import in from somewhere else, but we already have it. And in fact, throughout our life at different times, we are mindful in different ways of different things, just naturally mindful. And that is true even if we don't engage in any special mindfulness training or whatsoever. So that is a very important thing to remember if we want to cultivate effortless mindfulness, to be convinced that mindfulness is a natural quality that we already possess. So it's already here, and it can manifest at any time, especially when the conditions are right. And therefore, no great effort is needed. No great effort is needed to be mindful, because we can already do it. It's just a matter of how to encourage it, how to encourage ourselves to be more mindful at more occasions, that's all. Or for mindfulness to arise spontaneously, at different contexts or occasions, in a way that is helpful of us or supportive of what we are doing. Okay, so first thing about effortless mindfulness is to almost remind ourselves we can do it already. So there is no, it's no big deal. It's not like we need to work very hard and do something really special in order to be mindful. We are already mindful at different occasions. Yeah. That's very important to remember. Second is also, I may not have mentioned this, is to put aside certain ideas or ideals we have about mindfulness. One of the most common one, especially if you have a perfectionistic tendency, is this expectation or aim to be mindful all the time, to be mindful, to be present here and now all the time. And I personally find that is a bit unrealistic, and it's such a heavy burden to demand of ourselves to be mindful at every single moment, all the time. In fact, I think it's not necessary to be mindful all the time, because there are many occasions where we need to do other things with our attention. For example, when we recollect the past, reminiscence, when we allow our mind to go, and relive the past, and or invite the past to the foreground of our awareness. As could be usually the pleasant aspect of the past, could also be not so pleasant, but nonetheless, there is a place in our life for reminiscence, to allow our mind to go and revisit the past, or for the past to come back to life within us. Right? So that is to do with the past, not here and now. And there's also occasions where we can allow our mind, our attention to go to some projected future. The future is not here yet. We don't know. We speculate. So we can, in many occasions, we plan for the future. We have to imagine the future. Again, we are not engaged here and now. Our attention, but that is also relevant and important to be able to do that. And still, there are other occasions where we should allow our imaginations to express itself, for us to think in a creative way. For example, we daydream, we fantasize, we just allow our attention to take off, follow certain train of thoughts or images, and just indulge in it, enjoy it, and enjoy the forming new interesting connection of different ideas and images. So in that occasion, we are also not attending to here and now. So just this idea that we somehow have to lock our attention here and now all the time is not necessary. Right? Instead, we can sort of free ourselves. Don't put that burden on ourselves, and just think that what is needed is on different occasions, especially when there is a need, when there's a purpose, that we are able to return our attention to here and now, to check in, to be aware of what is actually happening in our body, in our own mind and heart, or happening around us, to be attentive to what is happening here and now when there is a need to. And of course, there are many occasions in life we do need to pay attention here and now. We do need to be mindful and present here and now. But that doesn't mean we are stuck here and now all the time, as far as our attention is concerned. I mean, we are always here and now, in a way, in a philosophical way. We all exist only in this moment. Our experiences arise only in this moment, the present moment. But as far as the content of our attention is concerned, sometimes we are aware of what is happening here and now. Sometimes we are attentive of what has happened in the past or may happen in the future, or we can creatively imagine what is possible or not possible, so to speak. So once we think in this way, I find it takes a lot of pressure off ourselves. We don't feel that we always have to come back to here and now. We all have to be mindful. I have to stay mindful. Instead, we can then encourage ourselves to figure out in an intuitive way when it is important to be present here and now, to be mindful, to be attentive. Right. That goes a long way to help us find the experience of mindfulness more effortless. Instead of feeling that we have to constantly work very hard in a very self-conscious manner, drag our attention back and try to stick it into this moment. Right? Okay, so these are just some ideas I thought could be helpful. Another one is to adopt a slightly different approach to cultivating mindfulness. And this is the one we can revisit and do a meditation with now. I often suggest thinking of mindful awareness as similar to listening awareness. Among our different senses, there's a certain quality of listening that makes it a little bit different, because in a way, just as I always say, we cannot adjust our ear. It's not something we can choose to direct the different directions. Instead, listening is about being here, being present, and being opened, and then just allow the sound to come to us. In fact, for us to listen better, be it in a conversation or trying to hear what's going on outside, what we have to do is we have to stop moving. We have to settle back into stillness physically, and also stillness verbally. Definitely stop talking on our parts, to just keep quiet for a while. And also in our mind, maybe to allow the thought to subside. And just turn our attention to listening, to be available, to be present, to receive the sound. And these are the conditions for us to listen better, for us to even to be able to pick up on any sounds that might be available. So listening as an analogy, I find quite helpful to extend that analogy to mindfulness. Mindfulness is a bit like this, not so much that we need to do something actively, but it's more of settling back, coming back here and now, and just incline the whole system towards stillness, so that we have less interference within, and so that we are more available to receive and to notice what is going on outside or inside. And so that's why let's give it a try to do a meditation, starting with listening and using listening as an analogy to help us find or contact this mindful awareness. And then I'm going to guide you to go through what we have talked about previously, the different domains, starting off inviting you to be, first of all, is sound through listening. Then I invite you to be mindful of the first domain of the body, to be open and present, and to be in touch here and now with our body. How is our body feeling today? What are the sensations that are available and that we sense in the different parts of the body? And notice the effect of such mindful listening to the body. It has a marvelous effect that it's almost as if by attentive and by listen and be present with the different sensations of the body, we are reconnecting the mind and the body. We heal that connection, or the disconnection sometimes happens when we are becoming a bit disconnected or dissociated. As the connection is healed, the body undergo a natural adjustment, wonderful adjustment, where the body decides, maybe I don't need to be so tight, so tense. Maybe there's nothing here, nothing happening here and now that is threatening, that's stressful. Maybe I can just take a break, and release some of those contraction and tension. So there's a nice thing to observe if it happens, not to be upset if it doesn't. And as that happens, as the release happens, at first it could be very subtle and definitely very localized. It naturally brings forth a feeling of relief, a feeling of ease, and sometimes come with certain pleasant sensations, which bring us to the next domain, to invite in those pleasant feelings, especially pleasant feelings associated with release, to come into awareness, to be mindful of feelings, in this case, the feelings of the sense of relief, of pleasure, of comfort, of relaxation that might be present here and now, and to be aware of it. And what does this do? Of course, again, this This has a surprisingly a calming effect on the mind itself. So mindful of body sensations calm the body, help the body to release all the various reactivity, physical reactivity. Now, mindful of pleasant feelings within, especially in this context, has a similar effect on the mind, help to calm the mind down. The mind that could be very agitated, could be very restless, and still reacting to things that happened earlier on today. In the face of experiencing those very subtle, soothing sensations, can have a calming effect on the mind. The mind is less agitated, there are less thoughts, becoming much easier for the mind to settle down. And that naturally brings us to the third domain, mindfulness of the mind. We cannot help ourselves but notice how the state of our mind. How is my mind doing? Oh, my mind seems to be calming down. How nice. Oh, my mind is still restless all over the place. Oh, my mind is happy. My mind is unhappy. My mind is angry. Oh, my mind stopped being angry. So we become aware of the state of the mind itself, right, which is the third domain of mindfulness. And as we proceed on in this way, continue to come back here and now, listening, being aware, mindfully aware, as effortlessly as we can manage it, without struggle, without trying to do it without frustration, without laying too much of an expectation or burden on ourselves. We start to be aware of all the different phenomena, different things that come into our attention, into our awareness. And body, feeling, and mind are just some examples that we are useful to start off with and to learn to be in touch with and to be aware with. But at any moment, there are many experiences arise, variety of experiences that we can notice and be aware of. And last week, I said, as we are able to be aware of the different experiences, different phenomena, we start to discern certain fundamental characteristics, some basic facts about our experiences as human beings, in a more generalized way. We become aware, for example, of the pervasive nature of change, of impermanence, of how whatever it is that we are experiencing, we are mindful of, inevitably they change. They are unable to resist change. They are unable to stay around or stick around forever. So that is bring us to the fourth domain, mindfulness of the Dharma. Dharma here could refer to phenomena, different experiences. Can also refer to the reality, the truth, some fundamental facts of our life. Right. So as a summary, so that is we are. So let's do a meditation, starting off with listening. So I invite you to find a suitable, comfortable meditation posture. Sitting on the chair like what I'm doing now, or sitting on the floor in the privacy of your own place. You are also most welcome to lie down on your back on a suitable surface. If you're lying on the floor, good to have some padding in between, yoga mat or whatever. And lie on the couch, lie on a firm bed, that's also perfectly fine. So I just ring the bell and to signal the start of the meditation. So first, we take a few moments, attend to our body in the meditation posture. See if we can ensure that the body is as comfortable as can be in the posture. Make sure that the posture you adopt provide a very stable base to support your body, one that allows the body to feel or reassured that it is well supported and well balanced. Take care that your back and spine feels comfortable in this posture. We don't have to consciously and deliberately straighten the back. We simply allow the spine, the back to adjust yourself and find as natural as possible a comfortable upright position that is good enough to start with. Rest our hands and arms on some physical supports so that both arms are supported throughout the meditation, and we don't have to tense up the muscles of the shoulders or arm muscles to somehow hold up the arms in some special ways. Feel free to close the eyes completely if you find that helpful, or you are more used to having the eyes open or half open, and that is perfectly fine as well. Rest the body in this posture. Allow the body to get used to the posture, to be reassured by it, so much so that the body may decide to loosen up. It does not have to be so tight and tense. It doesn't have to work so hard. It can start to unwind a bit, releasing some of the unnecessary contractions and tensions in the different parts of the body. So that is my usual first step of helping the body to acquire a suitable seat for meditation. And in the next step, I'm going to invite you to start with listening. I'm going to ring the bells in 2 sets, maybe 5 bells each, with a long pause between the 2 sets of bells. By producing this sound and by the sound of my voice, I'm inviting you to sit back, to settle back, and to open up, to be attentive and present, and to listen. Be aware also of the sounds in your surrounding, the sounds of my voice. Adopt a listening mode. Be an open listening space within which, without us having to do anything or to strain or to struggle, we simply settle back, quiet down, incline the system towards stillness and listen. Coming back here and now with our attention, see if we can adopt this listening mode, become an open listening space, listening spacious awareness present here and now. Within which we can be aware of sounds, external or internal, and alongside the sound, we can be aware of other things as well, naturally, automatically, without any effort whatsoever. We can be aware of the body, the different bodily sensations. Let us settle back and tune into the sounds, and tune into the different sensations in our own body. In your own way, notice the different bodily sensations. Listen to them, almost as if the body is trying to tell us something. Tell us through the different tensions and relaxations, tightness or looseness, hardness or softness. Welcome in all these bodily sensations as well as sounds. Present here as this listening, spacious awareness. See if we can allow into the awareness sensations at our own face, so that we are aware of whether have we tense up any of the facial muscles, tightening the muscles of the forehead, or maybe we have been clenching our jaw, or somehow contracting the muscles around the eyes. And if we become aware of such tensions in our own face, is it possible, by being aware of them, see if we can persuade ourselves, our body, to relax some of those tensions in the face, to somehow let in a feeling of softness, of ease and comfort into our own face. And if we do notice a softening, we notice a slight pleasant sensations with the release of tension, can we also welcome in those pleasant sensations, pleasant feelings into our listening aware space and allow ourselves to enjoy them while they're here. Coming back to the present moment, we can allow the sounds, bodily sensations, and anything else to help us by calling our attention to come back here and now. And when we remember, when we are back in the present moment, once again as that listening, open, spacious awareness, within the space of that awareness, once again be aware of the sounds, of bodily sensations, of feelings, especially any subtle, pleasant feelings that come from the release of tension, of tightness. So coming back to the present moment, almost as if the present moment here and now is the support of this meditation. We come back here and now and listen and be aware of sounds, bodily sensations, of feelings. And before long, we probably notice also the mind itself. The mind along with its thoughts, be it many thoughts or very few thoughts, thoughts in the form of words, images, an ongoing inner commentator, thoughts about past or future. See if we can also listen and be aware of them as well. And when we become aware of the rising of thoughts, of words, of images, and when we find our attention is drawn into those trains of thought, or we are carried away by those trains of thought, the past, future, or some fantasy, see if we can, when we recognize it, not to be frustrated by it, that this is a totally natural thing to happen, and simply invite our attention to come back to the support, to the present moment, and once again, rest ourselves here and now as a listening awareness, and listen to our thoughts. Coming back to the present moment, allow the sounds in your surrounding, or my voice, some bodily sensation, some feelings, some thoughts, to remind us to come back to the present moment, to come back to here and now, and to once again be open, receptive with this listening, aware space, to welcome whatever is arising, to come into the space of our awareness. Okay, so there is one way of cultivating present moment awareness or mindfulness through using the analogy of listening hopefully, it's hard for me to predict how people respond to it. I find it quite, I wouldn't say it's easy, but at least I try to, it's not so much that it's easy as that it's try to encourage myself not to put in unnecessary effort, like not try to struggle or try to make something happen. It's just a different idea of just sit back, settle back, open up, and just notice what is here. It's all listening as an analogy, metaphor. I can listen to know what is the sound and therefore know what is going on around me, maybe not. I can listen and notice the sensations in the body and give me some idea of how my body is doing. If it's really, really tight, then it's something I need to be aware of and maybe to look into. Or maybe it feels very comfortable and relaxed. How wonderful it is that I can enjoy that sensation. So to listen and to be aware of feelings, pleasant feelings. Feelings here means pleasure or pain, right? Pleasant feelings, comfortable feelings, unpleasant feelings, uncomfortable feelings. And of course, feeling also give us new additional information. And also when I'm able to be in touch with pleasant sensations, how wonderful. Maybe I can enjoy them while they're here. And the more I'm able to enjoy the pleasant sensations that arise, the more I'm able to help the mind to calm down, to reassure the mind, maybe everything is all right. And also I can listen to my own mind to see, hey, what is going on with my mind? Is my mind very agitated today? Or am I actually quite angry about something? Is something here is feeling very angry. There's a lot of anger present here. Or maybe not. Maybe it feels quite happy, quite relaxed. How wonderful that is. So this listening, being attentive, being mindful of what is present here, give us information of the reality of ourselves, of our life in this moment. And the more in touch we are with reality, hopefully the more we are able to respond to it in a suitable, appropriate, and helpful way. So there's some of the ideas behind it. Yeah. As we are, even though so far not many people have put up any comments or questions, but you're most welcome. If you do have any questions or comments, you're most welcome to type that into the live chat and I'll attend to that. Let's continue a little bit and talk about cultivating effortless mindfulness. Yeah. So, and one of the things very common we find in when we try to develop mindfulness, especially in our daily life, we participate in mindfulness training, is that we are, apart from what we call formal practice, which is what I just did. Meditation is a kind of formal practice. Formal as in you have to set aside a bit of time. You probably find a suitable place, like 20 minutes or 25 minutes, and you engage in certain practice, purposefully in a very deliberate way to familiarize ourselves with mindfulness, to also help to cultivate a new habit of being more mindful. Yeah. Then quite often there is also another segment of the training, which is to try to invite that quality of mindfulness into our daily life, trying to build up a habit of being more mindful as we go about our business and doing this and that. And so I'm not going to talk about those training, but you're most welcome to Google them. You'll find that they often give you different tips to stay mindful throughout the day, or they assign you different assignments, simple assignments that require you periodically to be mindful. One quite famous one is called the mindfulness bell. You can install this. I think there's an app available. I'm not sure. I used to install a program on my computer, which at random, you can choose to set that it will ring the bell, sound the bell at regular interval or random interval. And I used to have one on my computer. So periodically it would sound. And the idea is when the bell sound, I would stop everything, just pause for a few seconds, and really come back to this moment and to be present. And so it is to encourage me to be mindful. So I did that. So this is what I mean by training that we do, assignment that we are given to try to incorporate mindfulness into our daily life. I find, in my own experience, I find that bell very irritating. In fact, there are times when maybe I ought to be mindful. It doesn't sound, so it doesn't remind me at those moments. And the other time when I'm in the midst of doing something, I'm really concentrate on trying to get something done or follow a train of thought, or I was trying to busy typing something out, and then it would sound. Ding. And then I'm in a dilemma. Should I drop what I'm doing and to come back to this present moment? Or since I'm in the flow, so to speak, I should just carry on, put down the train of thoughts or get that thing done and finish or whatever it is. So it's create more dilemma for me than helpful, at least in my own experience. I'm not saying about others. So finally I decided, before I did anything to it, I start to ignore it. Whether it sounds or it doesn't sound, I just ignore it. Yeah. And eventually, since I'm not attending to it, I just uninstall that particular program. So that is a mindfulness bell. Maybe some of you might find that helpful as a way of reminding you to be mindful. That by all means, give it a try. You can Google it. I'm sure you can find some app of it. Instead, I want to maybe float this idea for you to consider that I have a plane flying at the moment. Yeah, so that could be a reminder. That in this case forcefully bring my attention back to the present moment because it's so loud. Yeah. And that's what I mean. At different points in the day, as we go about our business, we are actually at different occasion mindful of what is happening in that present moment. The thing is, maybe previously we don't notice this movement, this natural movement of the mind itself, coming back into the here and now to attend and to be aware of what's here. Maybe because it's so natural to us, it's so spontaneous, we don't notice it. It happens many, many occasions. You walk towards the door, of course, automatically, unless you decide to walk straight into it, your attention would naturally come back and be aware of the door. Unless you are busy looking at your mobile phone and then you walk straight into the door or lamppost or the wall or whatever. So, which is an example of mindlessness, being mindless of the environment. I'm trying to float this idea that we are naturally mindful on many occasions in our daily life, and we are not aware of it. Of course, no one has drawn our attention to that. And of course, we ourselves, we don't notice it. We don't appreciate its significance. Yeah. But in fact, we are already able to do it. Maybe what happened is we didn't do it often enough, or more likely is there are occasions where we do need to be mindful and we are not. We are too caught up in our thoughts. We are too engrossed in our reactions. We are too involved in the heat of the moment, dealing with this person or whatever it is, that we are carried along by our habits, carried on by our reactions, by our feelings, our emotions. And those are the moments, maybe if we are able to, clearly we aren't, we can check in and notice what is happening in our own body, in our feelings, in our mind, or in the external environment. In those moments where we need and it would be good to be mindful and present. And often than not, we are not. We are too habituated to follow our habits, our habitual reactions, too caught up in them that we are not. And so for us, we may feel like a failure in mindfulness. I think that is not true. Slowly, bit by bit, over time, we can change. And one thing that I find helpful is to that it is possible for us to be mindful after something has happened. And that can be, it's doable. I lost my temper. I said something, blah, 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 blah. The words are already out of my mouth before I'm aware of it. I notice it. So I'm not mindful in that moment. But subsequently, when I cool down, when I walk away, I can look back and I can notice what is happening, what has happened. So I'm mindful after the fact. And a lot of it came through recollecting what has just happened previously. So I can, after I lost my temper, I can look back and I notice, wow, I was really feeling like this, I was thinking like that, I said this, I did that. So this has happened. This is something that has happened. But by remembering, recollecting it, and bringing awareness to it, I am practicing a kind of retrospective mindfulness. I'm aware of something that has happened after the fact. But and this also happened to us quite naturally. A lot of us would, when we cool down, we might have a habit of reflecting on what had just happened, trying to understand it better, trying to see whether there are other ways of dealing with it, or trying to resolve the dilemma we are in. Now, I'm saying that that is a good habit that we may already be doing. And through doing that, cultivating, you can call it retrospective mindfulness. It actually helps us in the future to be more mindful. And eventually, not only are we mindful of the fact after it has happened, the more we do that, we will find one day that we are actually mindful in the very moment when we are doing it. So this doesn't require us to do anything extra, anything special. You don't need to use a bell to remind us. But this is something that we are already doing, and I'm asking you to appreciate the value of doing such a thing. To appreciate the fact that already we are mindful at different times of the day. Our attention naturally come back to here and now. To appreciate that at certain important occasions where we realize that we are not mindful during the occasion, but nonetheless we can, with our memory, recollect what has happened and be mindful of it retrospectively. And the more we are able to practice such retrospective awareness or mindfulness, you'll find that maybe not the next time, but after a few times, you sort of becoming more and more in tune with our own pattern. So much so that the next time the same pattern is triggered, in the midst of being triggered, we suddenly, our mind is quite incredible. We caught ourselves doing it. We become aware in that moment. Oh, here I go again. I'm about to start it all over again. Voila, you have made it. Mindfulness in the present moment of a habituated reaction, which previously we failed to catch, but now we are able to notice it while it's happening. Right? So these are how I practice my mindfulness. Probably because I'm lazy. I just find it very hard to do all those very special training and exercise. I fail to remember those exercises. So much about my mindfulness. But I also think that by looking at mindfulness in this way as something natural to us that we are already doing, and simply appreciate the times that we spontaneously engage in it, and almost like congratulating ourselves, giving ourselves, oh, well done, you have spontaneously been mindful. And also not to diminish the importance of after something has happened, looking back at it, remembering what has happened, becoming mindfully aware of the feelings, the actions, the thoughts, the kind of things that that arise previously, that help us in the future to catch it when it happens again, because we're becoming more in tune with the pattern, more in tune with some of the feelings, some of the thoughts, the thought process, and that, so much so that after a while, it automatically triggered our awareness. Right. So this is my 2 cents worth of exercise to bring mindfulness into our daily life. And finally, mindfulness in this way we are talking about is really making here and now, the present moment, to be our support of attention. To find that it is valuable on different occasions to invite our attention to come back here and now. And I think we can make this a main point in this next practice, is to understand mindfulness as coming back to the reality of this moment. Now, of course, there are occasions where we think about the past, we plan about the future, we fantasize about what might be possible for us, we dream our dreams, so to speak. But it's also very important for us to recognize the importance now and then, repeatedly, to return our attention to here and now, to this present moment. Why? Because this is the only reality that we have, the only reality that we live in. The past is over, we can remember it, but the past is gone. The future has yet to come. It's not real at the moment. We can speculate, we can imagine, we can project, we can plan, but the future is not here yet. Fantasy could be possible, it could be completely impossible, never to happen. It's wonderful that we have this marvelous ability of imagination that allow us to consider all manner of possibilities, or even the impossible things. Wonderful, beautiful, excellent thing. I love to daydream, but it's not reality. So now and then, again and again, we invite our attention to come back to here and now, to be present in this moment, because this is the only life we have. This is the only reality that we have. And there is great value of being here and now, living our life and being aware of it and being present to it, because it is only by coming back to here and now that we get to enjoy and experience the reality of our life through our eyes, through to sight, to sound, to smell, to taste, to bodily experiences, bodily sensations, of course to the mind, to enrich our mind with all these happenings of these moments. We can love someone here and now by paying attention, by listening to our loved ones, by returning our attention, be attentive to them while they are with us. Very precious moments to cherish, because eventually we all have to part. And so while we are together with one another, we have the opportunity to be with our loved ones. Why not be present here and now with them, instead of being caught up with our past arguments or be concerned about the future? There are many moments that it's wonderful to be back here and now. So try to also see mindfulness as a practice, a way of inviting our attention to come back to our real life. Fantasies might be very pleasant, but fantasy ultimately is an escape from reality. While we spend our time in fantasy, the less time we have to actually live and to experience our life. Our life is really precious, it's limited. So let's do one last meditation for this evening, and we try on this idea that I just mentioned. Instead of taking the breath as a support for our meditation or some bodily sensations or feelings, we take the present moment here and now as the support of our attention. And so, as in all meditative practice, what we return our attention to is return to here and now. And just as I also quite often emphasize, don't feel that you need to keep your attention here and now. There's a difference, right? It's a very important difference. It's very easy for us to come back to here and now. I notice, oh, I'm distracted. No problem. I return my attention, notice the sound. I'm already back here now. I can easily come back to here and now. Now, the opposite, the other one is not so easy. The idea that I need to stay, my attention need to stay here and now. Now, please don't try that one. Right? That one is setting yourself up for disappointment and frustration. First, you try, come back and try to stay. I don't know how you're going to do it, but because before you know it, your attention is gone somewhere else. You try, come back again. I will try again. I will try to stay. You'll be gone. In fact, the harder you try to stay, the more likely it is that your attention would disappear, escape to somewhere else. So I'm suggesting when we cultivate mindfulness, especially effortless mindfulness, don't set up that kind of target for ourselves. Change the whole way we orientate our mind and think of mindfulness not as staying here and now, but of coming back to here and now. A very easy thing to do. Say, oh, I think I'm lost in thought. Maybe I'll just come back to here and now, just to check in to see what's happening. Sometimes we get interrupted. The plane, I can hear the plane. Whether I like it or not, my attention is drawn back to here and now. Voila, I'm mindful of the present moment without even myself having to do anything. The sound call me back. The bodily sensations call me back. The breath call me back. Feeling arise, call me back to here and now. Even the thought arise, maybe I should go back to the present moment. I've been daydreaming long enough. Well, wonderful. I come back here. Every time we come back here and now, we are in touch with what is happening here. We can count it as a success. I'm mindful. One moment is also mindfulness. And the more we are able to do it, the more we find it easy to do it, to accomplish it, the more encouraged we are, the more empowered we are. Then we'll find that in our daily life, outside of formal practice, we will automatically start to do this. We do it when we're driving, we come back to be aware of the road conditions. We come back when someone is talking to us to attend to what they're saying. We come back to this moment because there's something is happening here that require our attention. And we find that, more and more there are occasions where we're able to be mindful by simply coming back to here and now. Right, there's a lot of talk, me, blah, blah, blah. So let's do one last meditation to explore whether we can be mindful in an effortless manner. So let's settle back into our meditation posture. And I'll ring the bell to signal the start of the meditation. Just as before, we return our attention first to the body. In the posture we have adopted, we become immediately aware of the body in the posture. We are aware of the sensations at the points of contact between our body and seat, body and ground. We are aware of whether the body feels comfortable or not so comfortable in this posture. And alongside that, we may even become aware of areas of tensions and tightness in the body, and maybe also areas of ease and relaxation in the body. Resting the body in this posture, we will find that the body, in its own wisdom, when it recognizes that there is no need for it to be so tight and tense and contracted, then it will begin an automatic process of loosening up, untying, unwinding. And given time, the body can release more and more of those unnecessary tension and tightness and really settle down into the posture and feel more and more comfortable. In this meditation, I invite you to make the present moment, here and now, the support of your practice, your meditation, of your attention, and in your own way, to invite your attention to come back here and now to the present moment. Maybe just as before, we can start with listening, to be present here and listen and be aware of the sounds. And coming back to this moment, becoming that listening, spacious awareness, doing almost nothing at all, simply being present and quiet and centered and listen. We can hear sound, we are aware of sounds maybe, or silence. And we are aware of bodily sensations. Bodily sensations in the form of tension, tightness, contraction, in the form of softness, ease, relaxation. A good place to ease ourselves, body and mind, into meditation is actually to notice whether are we tensing up the muscles of our own face. We have unconscious habits of tightening certain muscles in the face, straining, contracting. If we do notice such tensions in the face, see if it's possible, just by attending to it, being aware of it, to persuade our face, our body, to release those tensions, to allow the whole face to feel softer, more at ease, more relaxed, and more comfortable. Throughout the meditation, as we invite our attention again and again, patiently, to come back here and now to our present moment reality, occasionally we can check in on our face. It's a good indication whether we have subtly, unconsciously exert extra effort. We have once again tense up the muscle of the face. And if that is true, we can invite the face to relax, to let go of those extra effort, to let go of those struggle, to settle back, soften, be at ease, be present. Coming back to the present moment, of course, the most often we will notice our attention is drawn away by thoughts, drawn into the past or future. Some of us may maintain an ongoing inner conversation, inner commentary. And all of these activities of the mind are perfectly normal. We simply be aware of it when it happens. We acknowledge that our attention is no longer here and now. And we can invite our attention to come back, simply come back to the present moment, Come back to be in touch as that listening, spacious awareness of sound, of bodily sensations, of feelings, and even of thoughts themselves. And already we are practicing mindfulness. Coming back to the present moment, as we become aware of bodily sensations, maybe we notice, more likely to notice area of tension or discomfort with unpleasant feelings as the body feels tight and tense and contracted. See if we can acknowledge those sensations, acknowledge those feelings, and see if we can rest our attention here and now with them as well. Almost as if we are listening to them, listening to hear what the body has to say in the form of sensations, in the form of tightening or relaxing. Give those bodily sensations your present moment's attention without trying to do anything, without trying to make anything happen. Simply listen and be attentive and see what happens. And maybe the body, after it is listened to, may decide to change and to release. Coming back to the present moment, each time we recognize and become aware that our attention is no longer here and now, our attention is drawn elsewhere. In that moment of recognition, in that moment where we invite our attention to come back, to be in touch, to come back, to be that listening, aware space, we are already practicing mindfulness. We are already familiarizing ourselves with mindfulness, and we are already mindful. Coming back here now, recognize and acknowledge the sounds can call you back to the present moment. Bodily sensations can invite you to come back here and now. Likewise with feelings. And sometimes even your thoughts can awaken you and invite you to come back to the present moment reality. We are already mindful and we are capable of being mindful. All we need to do is to encourage ourselves again and again to come back to the present moment reality, to come back to our real life. And then finally, we can conclude the meditation with dedication. We can gather up all this positive momentum we have created by returning our attention to the present moment, by making the here and now the support of our attention. We can dedicate this positive momentum towards the development, the cultivation of our mindfulness, that our mindfulness is able in the future to support us, to help us, to benefit us. We can dedicate this positive momentum that we have created. In so doing, they will help us to fulfill our wishes, help us to fulfill any aspirations we may have for ourselves and others. Okay, so today I have emphasized on the idea of the effortless experience of mindfulness. I have sort of belabored over a few points that mindfulness is natural to us, that we are already fully capable of being mindful, and at many occasions now, in our daily life, we are already mindful. We are able to return our attention to attend to what's happening here and now. And so what's important is we need to encourage ourselves to do that more often, to see that we are capable of doing it and we can do it, and that it's beneficial to be, on many occasions, to actually be able to return our attention, come back here, to be attentive and present to what is happening in our real life, in our reality. And that is something that can be done without any struggle or frustration. It's something as natural as listening. Be still and be present, and automatically we are aware and we know. Simple. So I hope I sell you this idea enough for you to feel encouraged and empowered, and to appreciate the many moments of mindfulness that we already have. And it's just a matter of allowing this quality that we have to grow and to be of greater benefit to ourselves and others. All right, so thank you very much for your attention this evening. Next week will be the concluding session of this module of Cultivating Effortless Mindfulness, and I hope to see hope you will be here. So anyway, have a good week ahead, and good night.